Good day, my fellow Nigerians. You're welcome to this edition of Beat Magazine podcast. Today I want to talk about the topic I called the basic introduction to the 5 cabals in Nigeria. At the end of this discourse, it's going to help us understand, one, the cabals which various people belong to. Secondly, it's going to aid us design a growth model for our society if we care enough. Thirdly, it's going to guide us choose our leaders. Now, before we talk about cabals, I want us to look at some basic concepts because this will further guide us on the process. First, I want to talk about leadership, politics, and ruggedity. What is leadership? In my own way, I define leadership as the act of developing a vision, developing the self and the people that are needed to actualize that vision, and lastly, implementing the vision. I'll take it again. I define leadership as the process of creating a vision, developing the self and the people needed for the actualization of that vision, and finally implementing the vision. This means that leadership is a 3-part process. Now, let's go to politics. What is politics? Politics is defined as the act of installing oneself in office, or the act of installing oneself in leadership offices. Now, Plato defined politics as a supreme science since because he studies how to govern a people. But that was in Plato's time. Because from the modern day actions of politicians, the best impression we can get is that politics is not about studying how to govern a people. Rather, politics is about installing yourself in office and leading the people, whether they like it or not. Now, lastly, I want to talk about ruggedity. What is ruggedity? Ruggedity comes from the word rugged. And the dictionary defines rugged as something that is rough, harsh, rude, violent. Now, to understand what ruggedity means, let us look at a term which the dictionary calls rugged individualism. Now, the dictionary defines rugged individualism as a belief by one when someone believes in personal liberty, self-reliance, and free competition. Now, it says personal liberty, self-reliance, and free competition. On personal liberty, there is no issue because everybody seeks liberty to be free from anything that enslaves the person. Now, but where we have a little problem is self-reliance, because the truth is man is a social being. Nobody is an island and nobody can live in an island. Nobody can be self-reliant. When we talk about independence is a stage we get to so that we can become interdependent. Okay, how do I mean? Like, we're all born children, could not move, we couldn't do anything, we couldn't talk. But after a while, we started learning to walk, started learning to talk. At the point in our lives, we started going to school. At this stage, we were still cared for. We got to school, primary school, secondary school, the university, and we came out. After we came out of school, get a job, then, in most cases, you have to leave your father and your mother and seek your own life. Now you have to get married and build your own family. Now, but at the stage which you leave your father and your mother, you become independent. But that independence is not the final stage. It is a stage that leads you to the next stage, which is interdependence. Because when you get married, you don't make decisions alone. You communicate your decisions with your partner. You plan your life. You do a lot of things. And you start adding value to society. Because at that stage, a lot is expected from you as a result of the lot that you have been impacted on that you have been impacted with. So there is nothing like self-reliance. Rather, there is interdependence. Now, lastly, ruggedity has to do with free competition, which is the most disastrous aspect of ruggedity. Because free competition involves that you have to be so rugged that you have to hide your incompetence. Now, when you hide your incompetence as a person, first you prevent yourself from growing. And as individuals, we're in a school of life where we learn by every experience and every person that comes into our lives. But when you hide your incompetence, you shield yourself from growing, because your environment, your association, the people you associate with, whether your colleagues, your neighbors, your family, your friends and associates, they see within you your incompetence, but they can't talk about it to you, or they can't offer you a solution to your problems. So you hide your incompetence. You appear to be strong even when you are weak. Now, to an extent in life, we are all weak. We are all vulnerable. And at times we need a shoulder to lean on. Because, like we said, no man is an island. So having a shoulder to lean on means that you don't always have to appear strong. Because you have to let those people whom can assist you know that you need the assistance. But how do you get the assistance when you appear to be strong? Then, lastly, the ugly thing about free competition is you create a fake personality to foster the image you have created of yourself. Now, this fake personality does you no good. Because at the end of the day, sometimes the person you're dealing with, the person you're socializing with, the person you're interacting with, sees beyond your personality. In the modern day world, we sometimes we say make a first impression. But in all my writings and saying, I always come against making a first impression, because a first impression means that, one, you are lying, because whom you project yourself to be is not who you are. And as human beings, we do not like being lied to. Even the greatest liar doesn't like being lied to. So when you create a personality of first impression, you try to make the person you're dealing with know that you're a good person or you're a nice person. Those who have the third eye of psychology will be able to see through you. And if you create a good impression of yourself the first time you meet somebody, then later you're not able to keep up to that impression. The person sees you as a fake. So you don't have to create a good impression. Be yourself. If you're a bad man, be a bad man from the first day. If you're a good man, be a good man from the first day. Okay? Now, another ugly thing about rugged individualism is that there is a desire within the individual to subject the will of other people below his own will. What do I mean? Some people, by their nature, decide to subject other people below them. They become in charge. They want to be the boss. They want to be the leader. They want to be the one that calls the shot. Even when they are not efficient, they don't know what is going on, they cannot add value to that particular system. But they take the leadership position and subject everybody to them, is what they say that happens. Now, this also involves lack of empathy. Because as humans, we're designed to be empathetic. I'm not talking sympathy, empathy. which is your ability to feel another's pain, feelings, emotions, and all that. Now, feeling other people's pains and aspirations is just the first step that should guide you adjust your own behavior so that you can add value to their lives. But in a case of rugged individuality, the rugged individual doesn't give a hoot about other people's feelings. If he's a boss in the office, everybody's scared of him because his presence inspires or evokes terror. Is it that you're scared, you must fall in line, or you lose yourself? Now, in the past, in the ancient time, political leaders were chosen not by reason or by election. Rather, it was the ruggedity in this leader that made them choose the person as a leader of the tribe, the clan, the tribe, the community, or wherever. Now, it was the person, maybe the greatest hunter, who was able to lead soldiers into battlefield, or who had helped the community win so much battles. The community now feels that because this man has made us win so many wars, let us make him our king so that he can guide us in times of war. Now, I'm not condemning this system of leadership, because as at the time it was practiced, it was the best they could think of, considering their level of knowledge, exposure, and all that. It was the highest they could think of, and it worked for them. In fact, as a matter of fact, even at the height of Greek civilization, people like Aristotle and Plato, in fact, I think Plato believed in leadership by autocracy. Though his autocracy, as at then, is not the same with what we ascribe to it today. Or let me not use the word autocracy, tyranny. Because he believed that a leader who was a tyrant, and as at then, a tyrant meant leadership by one man. That is, there was nothing like Senate, House of Representatives, and all that. No. So the king just stands up today and says, A, B, C, D will happen. And everybody falls in line. Now, Plato's argument was on the basis that it expedites action. It brings about instant growth. Rather than when you have a house of assembly, you have a lot of institutions of government, then you now start talking about bureaucracy. And sometimes the good things which should benefit society is killed halfway. It never sees the light of day. So the point is, in the past, in the ancient time, this system of rugged leadership helped them. Now, but the saddest truth, the most ugly thing about today's life, in this modern day world of the internet, jet age and computer age and all of that, the sad truth is we still choose our leaders based on how rugged they are. We don't choose our leaders based on what they can offer. Is the most rugged man, the most rugged person who can show that he's a bad guy. That's the one we support. And this is an ugly truth which has to change, or which we have to adjust if we must move further as a nation. Because the truth is, these people who are extremely rugged sometimes lack reason. Because sometimes the use of brute physical force means there is mental or there is intellectual inefficiency. After all, in the modern day time, we say the pen is mightier than the sword. The rugged man, the rugged leader, the chief warrior, the greatest hunter didn't believe in pens. Why should he write anything? Why should he talk to you about anything? These were great leaders who believed in the sword. But in the modern world, we believe in the pen. Even though sadly in Nigeria, the sword is mightier than the pen. Because if you're intellectually sound and you're in the midst of people, you're trying to let them know how to do things or try to guide them, they will kill you with that your goodness. Because a lot of people will see you like you're trying to show them that you know more than them. And you're exposing their ignorance to them, which is an unforgivable sin. Because generally, in the Nigerian society, we do not like learning. But we'll come to that as we go down our discussion. Now, sadly, again, there are a couple of things that guides us to determine whom our leaders are in Nigeria. First is, we have these rugged leaders. Secondly, tribal sentiments. At every point in time, whenever there is an election, I try to interview people from the various political parties. Not direct interview, but in our conversations, I discuss with them. One thing I find out strongly is that a lot of us are very tribal. Now, this is a serious problem. Very serious, because where it becomes a problem is when a person wants his brother, who may be very ignorant, stupid, and inefficient, to occupy an office simply because he doesn't want another person from another tribe to occupy that office, it becomes a problem. Because for every system to grow, you have to talk about efficiency. And when you have inefficient people in an office, the office cannot grow. The system cannot grow. We're so tribalistic. Everything is centered on our tribe. So efficiency is not a consideration in whom we choose as a political leader. And this doesn't support growth, because we cannot grow with this. If I take our current political situation to analyze it, you find out we have three bigwigs in the scene. And these three bigwigs come from three different areas of the country. Now, when I discuss with most people, I find out they are also very tribalistic. It's not really about reason. Because the truth is, the three candidates, they have their strength and they have their weakness. As for me, I've not decided on who I am going to vote for. I don't even want to listen to their campaign rhetorics. Because, number one, I'm a critic. So I know they're not going to tell me anything, because I also know a lot of politicians will tell you things, and when they get into office, another thing takes place. So the three people we have, they have their strength, they have their weakness. I'm not going to say anybody should vote for this or vote for that, or not vote for anybody. But the point is your tribe the major factor that aids you decide whom you want to choose for 2023? Now, we've talked about factors that guide us on our today's leaders. One is tribal sentiment. Two is political affiliation. Now, I come to observe that people choose their political leaders based on political affiliation. Though I know that's a very difficult task anyway. So it's more an observation. In a sense that it's difficult for people not to vote in whom their party chooses. But I think that for a society to be better, reason should prevail, not political affiliation. Because in some cases you find out that these political candidates generated by the political parties, one, they lack what it takes. Two, they're not so efficient. And most importantly, some of them, if the internal party doings were free and fair, these people will not emerge. But it so happens that the party brings out those people, and every other person in the party, both those who understand what's going on and the sycophants, they go about spreading the gospel. This man is the best, is this, is that, And everly, as we always know, there are more sycophants than reasonable people in every political party in the world. And according to the laws of psychology, when you say something, say it again, say it again, say it again, and say it again, it becomes a truth. To those who are very ignorant or who don't know how to reason or shift away the rubbish from the truth. So political affiliation in a way is a problem. I'm not saying anybody should leave his political party. But what I want to say is, if your party chooses somebody whom you have reasoned that this person is not qualified for that office, why do you vote for that person? Why do you go about telling people to vote for that person whom you know, whom you are convinced in your mind, in your soul, that he's inefficient? You go about convincing people that he can deliver. As a suggestion, I think that if you belong to a political party and your party brings out somebody whom within you know this person will not perform, why not play dumb? Act like, yes, you belong to the party, but stay away from anything campaign, stay away from convincing people, stay away from even voting for that person. Nobody's going to kill you. The maximum thing is, if the person wins, you may not reap any benefit. And stand by your principles. Because greatness is our ability to stick to what we believe in, irrespective of what every other person thinks. Abraham Lincoln, in his son's letter to his teacher, said, teach him to stand and fight if he thinks he is right. So if you, as a citizen of the nation, you have moral bearing, you have moral integrity, you have intellectual strength, and your party chooses somebody whom you know will not perform, please do not support him. Play dumb and allow the other party to win. Thirdly, we look at another factor that aids wrong candidates, and which is personal selfish aggrandizement. This is a great stumbling block on the path of progress of Nigeria. A lot of people want to choose a political candidate simply because if he enter office, he done better for me. He done better for our people. You now look at the level of mentality this person is exhibiting. Which means in his mind, Nigeria is not a consideration, or the society is not a consideration. He's all thinking about himself. So even those who contribute to the who contribute to a candidate's success, they are doing so for their own personal benefit, not because that candidate is going to better the society. If you are among this type, please, I beg you, keep your will aside and let the will of the nation prevail. Because one truth we must always realize is that nobody will come down from heaven to develop Nigeria. If Nigeria has to grow, we have to grow it. And we grow it by choosing reasonable leaders, not leaders who will fuel and fund our personal greed. The greatest responsibility of a people is to build their society. And any society that fails is as a result of the failure of the individuals in that society. A society grows when the individuals in that society think about how to make the society a better place. Not how to extract from the society. A society's growth is like love. A writer I once read a book said, love is like unto the ascent of a mountain. It never comes close. It only comes close as you go closer to it. If we look at it again from another perspective, a lot of people are looking for love. Looking for love not by giving love, but looking for love by who will love them. And the truth is, if you are looking for somebody to love you, you may never find. You only find love by giving it. Because the greatness of love is not in receiving, but in giving. So if the nation must grow, it is not by extracting. That's why a place like America said, think not what America will do for you, but what you will do for America. So stop thinking about the political leader that will benefit you. Rather, think of a political leader that you can benefit. That you can benefit him by supporting him. Implement positive change in the society. Then lastly, as part of the factors that are guiding us choose our leaders of today, we have lack of futuristic goals. Now, this lack of futuristic goals does one thing. First, it creates a room where people without vision occupy office. What do I mean? In a society, even though I think beyond the Nigerian society, I think one of the fatal flaws of leadership or of democracy as a system is that it doesn't really cater for the future of a society, because government is more of managerial and it's not futuristic. Rather, every society is being developed by maybe the scientists, the business people, and a few other aspects of the society, not the government. That's why in modern societies or in civilized world, the government is not involved in a lot of things in the society. The government privatizes a lot of things, and those things work. Even though our own privatization has another story. Now, lack of futuristic goal makes a society choose anyhow kind of person. Like we've seen from Britain. and from a few other nations in Europe and in Asia and in other places. When a leader underperforms, somebody can stand up from somewhere and said, this man will pass a vote of no confidence in you and you have to step aside. Sometimes something happens within that sector that leader guides, and the head leader has to go down. Not because it's him that did that thing, but because he takes the blame. Let's take, for instance, in a nation where maybe a policeman misbehaves, that this whole nation gets angry, maybe protests or one thing. You can find the police commissioner or the head man of the police. You resign. It has happened. And it keeps happening every day in civilized world. I mean, the latest one is we've seen the British Prime Minister being cast aside. And we've seen some previous ministers resigning on their own. This is because the path they were doing is different from what the society as a whole has as a vision. So, for us to counter this, I believe that a society should have a common goal, a common vision, a common dream, which it is pursuing. Because when we're pursuing this dream, when we have leaders who start acting one kind, it becomes easy for us to boot them out of office. Now, another thing created by this lack of futuristic goal is godfatherism. How? Now, since the society is not guided by sound moral principles, the most rugged man in modern day ruggedity, in our modern days, ruggedity is achieved by money. You spread the money and you become the boss. So the most rugged man chooses a candidate and pumps money into him. And what happens? That person wins. So it is now a godfather that is deciding whom governs a nation. Yes, all over the world we have godfathers. Even in America, there are godfathers. There are cabals. Okay? There are cabals. But in such climb, the cabals are sensible enough to bring in reasonable candidates whom can deliver. Unlike here, that the rugged man, the rugged godfather chooses the most rugged candidate who will implement his agenda. Now this is made possible because we as a society worship money. When you have money in Nigeria, people respect you. It doesn't matter how you got that money. It doesn't matter whether you're working a job of 15,000 a month. After 2 years, you build an estate with 20 million. Chai in Don Hammer. That guy in a big guy. You need to see that estate, na him get up. People just respect you. Even the religious institutions that are meant to guide we as a people, or the institutions that are meant to impact discipline on us, begin to respect this criminal, this thief who has stolen so much money and has done things, and he becomes a respected person. So, if we can stop worshipping money as a god, to an extent, I believe we can build our society. Because one of our greatest responsibility as it stands today is to build our society. Now we've seen some factors that should act as a guide to us in defining leadership and politics and a few other factors in society. Now let's look at the cabals themselves, so everybody will understand where he or she belongs. I'm going to take the cabals from the top to the bottom, because it's a gradual process, and the number 4 of the cabal is the most dangerous one, so we're reserving for later talk. Now, top on this cabal is the political cabal. Now, this political cabal, their primary objective is to get into office. This comprises of every political office holder. They belong to this cabal. The primary objective is to get into office, and they will do anything to get into office. Now, I remember I think in one of the previous elections or something, there was a politician who made a comment or something like that, or he was trying to prove a point using moral argument, and somebody from another political party now said that he's applying morals to politics. And it was a point. I overheard this on the Calling radio program. Now, his point is the politician should not have applied to morality in arguing his case. That means he was being weak for applying morality. Now, if you interpret this one level below, what it means is that politicians should not include morality in what they are doing, which boils down to what I'm trying to say: rugged individualism as a guide in our choice of leaders. So the political class or the political cabal, their primary objective is to get into office. And the truth is, each cabal is not friendly to the other cabal. There are 5 cabals that we'll talk about. Cabal number 1, political cabal. Then cabal number 2, we have the hermetic henchmen. I call them the hermetic henchmen. Why? Now, the word cabal comes from a Jewish word, Kabbalah, which when you Google it, it's going to tell you it's a secret or deeper aspect of Judaism that it's not actually meant for everybody. So it is called Kabbalah. That's from where the word cabal came. So that should guide us to understand that a cabal is a secret kind of group. Let me use that word. Now, you have the hermetic henchmen, because I use the word hermetic because in philosophy you will come across hermetic philosophy. I think the Greeks called their philosophy hermetic philosophy. In the sense that it was sealed. It's sealed to only those whom are in the cabal, or those who are into the system. Now, henchman, we all know what a henchman is. He's part of the inner caucus. Now, these hermetic henchmen are the godfathers and the decision makers within the political class. Some of them are not in the political class. Some of them are just godfathers. Some of them are businessmen. Some of them are into other things. But they are the henchmen that decides what happens within the political cabal. Every government has its own cabals. And every government has this hermetic henchmen. Now, when I talk about government, I'm not talking of national and or state government. I'm even talking of even the government in your school, in your place of work, in your village meeting, in the associations you belong to. There are people within those groups who are the decision makers. Sometimes you won't see them. In some clubs, you will never see them. They don't even come for meetings. But the chairman of the group or the club or the president is answerable to them. No matter the amount of meetings you guys hold, he will still go and consult with them, and they say it's final. Because in some cases, these were the people who made him chairman of the group. So he's answerable to them. Now, these hermetic henchmen are those whose agenda nobody knows. And to be very sincere with you, their agenda may not fall in line with what the society needs. Because if they come from the business class, their priority is how to gouge out the highest amount of money for every unit of product they sell. And these guys, after their candidates win, they are going to find a way and make policies that will favor their business. Thirdly, we have the capital cabal. Now, this capital cabal, they are not associated with the political cabal or the hermetic henchmen. No. They're just a cabal of capitalists, big boys. Though there's the higher capital cabal and the low capital cabal. Now, the primary aim of the primary aim of the capital cabal is how to make the highest amount of money for every item sold, because capital from capitalists, business. These are business people. And now when I talk about this business, I'm not talking about the the 10, 20 digit business people. I'm talking about even the market woman that lives on your street, whom if she buys oil yesterday, today the price of oil has changed in the market. She will increase the price of this today one. Because our primary aim is to make so much money from the people. Things like inflation, it is we who are the consumers that are complaining. To them, the business people or the capitalists, let me use the word capitalist, it's a heaven free fall for them. That's why even if a filling station buys petrol today, 2 days later Nupen goes on strike, 4 days later the price of fuel triples, they are going to sell with the new price. And not only selling with the new price, they're going to tell you they don't have fuel. Sometimes you have to pay to buy fuel in jerrycan. Why? Because they are a capital cabal. Their aim is to make money. So it doesn't concern them. Government policies, in fact, these guys at the higher level, those of them that have 6, 7, 8 digit companies, their primary aim is to find a way to thwart government policies to favor them. So first we have seen the political cabal, the hermetic henchmen, the capital cabal. Fourthly, we have the good men cabal. For me, I think that this is the most dangerous cabal in Nigeria. What do I mean? There are good people in Nigeria. There are good people. There are good leaders. There are those whom, if given leadership positions, will perform exceedingly fine. Now, but do you know the greatest challenge? The greatest challenge with this class of people is that their head has been buried in the sand of time. You know, I think there's this animal, I don't know if it's flamingo or turkey or something, that when he sees problems, he goes to hide its head in the sand. I think it's flamingo, yes. It will hide its head in the sand. So even if there is a raging fire around, it will hide the head in the sand in the hope that when it hides its head, the problem will pass him by. But if it's a fire that is actually burning, hiding the head in the sand, will he save the body? No. Now, the problem of the good men is that good men think that they are good and they have hidden their head in the sand of time and make no effort. They make no effort towards impacting society with their goodness. Yes. They make no effort. So you see a lot of people that are good. But sometimes even their immediate environment doesn't understand why they are good. Or even their immediate environment sees them as wicked man, bad man. Let's take for instance, you have a lecturer in school that doesn't collect sorting. They will say that man a bad man. That man don't like person progress. He wants people to fail. In the happy when they fail people. Now, you come to other aspects of our life. I know that sometimes, yes, when people are doing what is wrong and you're trying to correct them, it's very difficult. Yes, I know, it's very difficult. But I think that one of the supreme tasks of every good man or every leader lies in creating a method of impacting his environment with his goodness. Yes, okay. Let's give an illustration. A good man is walking on the road. He sees a policeman maltreating somebody else. And sometimes maybe he tries to intervene. And instead of the policeman to listen to him, maybe the policeman adds him to his list of people that he will torture. And he starts brutalizing him. So, the good man now goes out to say, when you see bad things they happen, no put tomato. If not, then you go join them. But let's look at this from another perspective. You are walking on the street, you are a good man. You see a policeman maltreating somebody else. What if you capture this in your mind? Yes, you have observed it. Then you go home and you sit down. How do I stop policemen from maltreating people? Then you call your friend, another good man, because if you're a good man, you have good friends. You call another of your friend who's a good man and you say, oh boy, see, how do we go about this? And that one says, okay, maybe whenever I go to social media, I'll talk about it. I'll just write a brief article. Because the good thing about social media is that everybody has now become a journalist. Anybody can say anything. Whether you say it in a professional way, in a non-professional way, it doesn't matter. The point is you're dishing out your knowledge. So he says, okay, when I go to social media, I'll talk about it. I'll do a video on TikTok. I'll do a video on YouTube. I'll do a video on Facebook. I'll write an article. And he writes an article. Okay, you know one person, one or two people in the media. You write an article and you submit. And one or two people make comments. And before you know what's happening, you've gathered 5, 10, 15, 20 good men like you from people's comments. And what happens? You guys come together. Okay, how do we make the society a better place? Then somebody says, my uncle is a commissioner, or my uncle is this, my uncle is that, my uncle is a DPO. Maybe if we go and see him, we'll talk to him, he will understand with us. You form an organization, or you go there as concerned citizens, and you tell the DPO or the police commissioner or whoever, you say, Oga, see, we know your men are trying to put order in the society, but sometimes they step out of line. So what we want to appeal to you is to find a way to use your good office to make changes in the society or make changes in your institution. The commissioner listens to you and is impressed by your concern. So maybe he launches an investigation to find out, okay, why these policemen are maltreating other people is because they are stressed up, they have been overworked, or they are undertrained. Then he puts in effort to try to say, okay, let us train these policemen to be like this. And somehow you'll achieve results. This explanation or this illustration could be very crude. Yes, I know. But when you go through implementing a positive change in the right direction, chances are you will achieve something. You may not achieve an immediate result, but you will achieve a voice. You will make a voice. And people will hear. Now, someone may hear what you say, and 2 years later, that thing you said, that seed you planted in his mind, gives birth to something. You can even talk about it on social media. A policeman who's a good man sees it, and tomorrow he's made the police commissioner or the inspector general. Learning from what you shared and what he has seen, he can implement a change. So the point is, there is a way to implement change. Not by direct intervention. You see? So, sometimes the good man is the most dangerous cabal. He's dangerous when he doesn't make any effort to impact society with his goodness. Then, lastly, we have the mass cabal. What do I mean? Mass cabal. This comprises of the masses, those of us that are being led. Now, the primary objective of the mass cabal is to behave anyhow. Because we're living in a nation where people like to act randomly, erratically, carelessly. People don't want to be guided. In some societies, the mass cabal are a little bit enlightened. And so, when the political class is going out of line, the mass cabal can come out and say, oh boy, we no go gree. Oh boy, this thing will be like this. But if you're dealing with a society where some or a percentage of the society is highly ignorant, then the mass cabal will primarily want to make money. But one of the things that marks the mass cabal is stupidity, fear, ignorance. All of this manifests itself as lack of control. What do I mean lack of control? When you examine successful people, one thing you see about them is discipline. They are persistent in whatever they are doing. They are focused. They put their drives. Even amongst the political class, they have drive, they have persistence, they have determination. And they have routine to back this up. They stick to their routine, they stick to their principles, they stick to the things they do. But when you come to the mass cabal, what you have is somebody dreaming to own a company, but he cannot write an application letter. He's dreaming to own a company, and all his money goes to Naira bet. He's betting from one point to another, and he's hoping to hammer through betting. You see amongst the women, wants a good husband, but has a bad character. Nothing to write home about. So, the masses, in some cases, the cabal, they belong to their own very rude cabal, which is self-destructive. Because if the masses are enlightened, they can be a support to the political class. But in a case where the masses are not enlightened, they behave like even worse than the cabal, worse than the political cabal. Like sometimes, if you look at Nigeria, you find out that there are more people waiting to get into political office and steal than those in the political offices. And if you try to talk about implementing a positive change, they're going to tell you, say, oh boy, wait to may reach my turn after I chop finish go. You go come begin do that change. And we live in a society where if, let's take for instance, you're made maybe a councillor or a mild political office where you're receiving 7 digits at the end of every month. Now, if at the end of your 4 years or 8 years or however long you serve, you come out of office, you get to maybe a quiet town, a quiet area of the town, not too expensive. You buy yourself maybe 2 or 3 plots of land. You buy your wife a small car, maybe a Camry, and you yourself, you buy maybe a Camry, a Highlander or something a little bit above your wife's own. And you live your normal life. Like, you're not living a flamboyant life because actually you don't have the money for that flamboyant life. Do you know that even your village people will curse you forever because to them you're a useless man and God will punish you for being stupid because you were given an opportunity and you misused it. Now, what this means, if you examine this from a deeper perspective, what it means is that the impression the masses have is that when you get into political office, loot it dry. The political office is not about serving the public. It's about enriching yourself. This shows that fundamentally, the masses are worse than the political class. Because if truly the masses have any atom of discipline within them, then when somebody occupies a political office and did not steal, he will be celebrated. But that is not the case with what happens here. And this now brings me to another point I want to talk about, which is the idea that a lot of us have this idea in Nigeria that the political class is responsible for all our failures and all our problems and all our challenges. But one other truth is the mass cabal or the masses have strong contribution to this process or to this challenge we're experiencing. How do I mean? When the masses celebrate mediocrity, when the masses use the inefficiency of the political leaders to implement inefficiency in their own lives, then they are not different from the political class. Now, let's paint a picture. I want to paint a picture of a father whom is a smoker. Now you find out that if this father has maybe 2 or 3 sons, 1 or 2 sons can like him very well because he smokes. And those ones will later end up becoming smokers. But another of the sons can say, I don't like daddy because he smokes. Why does he smoke? Smoking is not good. Now, it is the same action, but but we have different reaction in different people. Now the question is, what makes this other child dislike smoking, and what makes this child likes smoking? The answer can be found in the idea that the child whose father was smoking and he started smoking, his mind is susceptible to smoking. He likes smoking. So that means that even if his father was not a smoker, he will become a smoker. But the other one who did not become a smoker, he understands the implication of smoking and he abstains from it. Now, if you translate this to what is happening in Nigeria, you find out that the political class, or the inefficiency of the political class should not be a reason for the mass cabal or the masses to misbehave. If the masses had an atom of integrity within them, then the masses will find a way to stop the political class from doing what they are doing. Okay. Okay. I'm going to end the discussion on cabal by reading two documents. One is a quote from the Chinese, and the other one is an extract from the American Declaration of Independence. Let me read out the Chinese quote. It says, "The ancient who wish to manifest their clear character to the world will first bring their state to order. Those who wish to bring their state to order will first regulate their families. Those who wish to regulate their families will first cultivate their personal lives. Those who wish to cultivate their personal lives will first rectify their minds. Those who wish to rectify their minds will first make their will sincere. Those who wish to make their will sincere will first extend their knowledge. The extension of knowledge consists in the investigation of things. When things are investigated, knowledge is extended. When knowledge is extended, the will becomes sincere. When the will is sincere, the mind is rectified. When the mind is rectified, the personal life is cultivated. When the personal life is cultivated, the family life will be regulated. When the family life is regulated, the state will be in order, and there will be peace worldwide." This is a Chinese quote. Now, the point I want us to look at here is cultivated personal lives. We'll look at that again. But let me read from the preamble to the Declaration of Independence in America. I think it's paragraph 4 or paragraph 2. It says, "A new theory of government. We hold this truth to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Amongst these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, government are instituted amongst men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed." I'll stop there. Now, when we talk about the consent of the governed, now we're talking about the masses as a cabal. The cabal, the masses as a cabal gives their consent, not by riot, protest, and all that. Rather, we give our consent by the things we tolerate and the things we do. When we refine ourselves, the society will automatically refine itself. In fact, from a personal perspective, I believe that the challenges of Nigeria majorly is caused by the masses. Because if the masses, if we cure our crease, let me use that vernacular word, if you cure our crease, if we behave right, Nigeria will be so refined that we will not have questionable characters. We won't have people that should be ashamed of themselves coming to tell me he wants to become my leader. Once the masses understand what it means to live a good life, automatically the top will clear up. But the mistake we're making is that we're expecting the change to come from the top, and it will never come. That's the truth. It can never come. Because the political class, their aim is to get into office, and they will use every possible means to get into office. That involves galvanizing we the masses, maybe against ourselves, using religion or using tribe or using so many tactics that we do not know. They use these tactics against us, we fight against ourselves, they get into office. So, when we, the masses, begin to live a better life, Nigeria will purify itself. How do we live that better life? From the Chinese quote, we saw it said, cultivated personal life. Which boils back to one of the things we talked about when we said rugged individuality and the gap it creates. The gap that allows ignorant people to get into office. Cultivated personal lives fills all this gap. Cultivated personal life refines us. A cultivated personal life makes us better people. Not by correcting others, no. Not by one institution telling the other institution that you're not getting it right. No. Rather, personal change. The change that starts when you look at the man in the mirror. The change that makes you want to be a better person tomorrow than who you were yesterday. That's the change we need. So, if Nigeria will grow, from perspective, I believe the power is in the hand of the cabal, the masses cabal. I believe in Nigeria. I believe we can build a better society. I believe the future can always be brighter than the past. I believe, yes, we have a long way to go, but we can get there because the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a step. I believe that if all the good men in Nigeria begin to find ways to impact the society positively, we will get to better grounds. I believe that Nigeria plays a crucial role in global economics, social life, and every other thing. After all, we're the giant of Africa. Oh, no, let me not go there, because our giantism, I believe it has to do with inability to control ourselves. That's why we have so much people, so much population. So, but it's a fact, we're a giant. So let's do things in a giant way that impacts the world, starting from Africa. Nigeria has the capacity. Technically, we have the capacity. As a matter of fact, I know some of the best tailors in the world are in Aba. And some of the shoemakers in the world, some of the best shoemakers in the world are in Aba. So we have the capacity. When we go out there, when Nigerians go to Europe, America, Asia, and everywhere, they become one of the best. Because we have this shared determination to succeed. We have that drive. So let's apply the drive here at home. And we can build a better society. I believe in us. I just need us to apply that principle of growth that is instrumental to creating a better society. And we will all be great. Thank you for having to listen to this up to the end of it. Now, I'm not saying you should agree with everything I've said. Not even one. You shouldn't even agree with one. But what I want you to do is to think. When you think, if you disagree with anything I've said, you can leave it on the comments. Let's discuss. Because I'm also learning. Just as you have paid attention to me, I believe you want to learn something. So, let us discuss on how to make Nigeria a better place. Thank you very much.